I'm pleased to invite you here today for an opportunity to discuss with a very valiant and courageous woman who dedicated her life to public service and I think was treated very shabbily. But I'm very honored that Linda Keane, the former president of the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, and a woman who headed up international work to review nuclear safety, it has been willing to appear with me in the context of this election campaign to explain why she supports me in this campaign to become the first elected member of Parliament for the Green Party. Linda and I came to know each other in the events surrounding the decision of the Harper government, and particularly of the incumbent in Saanich Gulf Islands, the Minister of Natural Resources, Gary Lunn, in removing her from her position as president of the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission over an issue of nuclear safety. In the context of the ongoing crisis in Japan, in Fukushima, the ongoing and continually uncontrolled, we're still wondering what the end point will be of that disaster. But the beginning of that disaster had certain elements in common with the issue over which Linda was fired. We all, I hope, recall that the Chalk River reactor, the NRU reactor, was operating in violation of its license from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission when that was discovered, and the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission insisted that the licensee, AECL, live up to the terms of its safety license, which required a backup system for power in the event of an earthquake. This is right on point to what we see happening in Japan. And Linda was treated not just personally shabbily, but the decision to fire her, as Auditor General Sheila Fraser said at the time, would have had a chilling effect through the entire civil service. It did damage to the fundamental concept of the relationship between independent regulators and governments that appoint them and count on them to live up to their requirement to protect us, whether we're talking about food safety, nuclear safety, water pollution. We cannot in this country have regulators who are afraid to regulate for fear that heads will roll if they offend their political masters. This did violence to our regulatory system in Canada. And with that, I just say how courageous, as I said, Linda is courageous, valiant, and absolutely steadfast in her commitment to proper regulation and fulfilling her role as a civil servant. And Linda, I've said quite enough at this point. I'd like to turn it over to you in Ottawa, to the Cisco Presence Room there, for whatever you might like to say on this occasion. And again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us today. Linda Keane.
Well, thanks, Elizabeth, and I really wish I was with you for a whole number of reasons. I just wanted to say a few things about why I support Elizabeth and how I came to support Elizabeth May. As Elizabeth said, she was one of those few people who contacted me after the firing and asked and was supportive. She didn't. We really just talked about various things about politics. She's an expert in politics. She's written a book about democracy, so she really knows of what she speaks. And when it became clear that we were going to have an election and that she would be running in Saanich Gulf Islands, and I wrote her an email saying, look at Elizabeth, if there's anything I can do to support you, because I think that the House of Commons, I think that we need you in Ottawa. I think that you're going to be so far and above not just the best MP for Saanich Gulf Islands, but you will set a standard for MPs, I think, nationally. So I really, I offered this to her, and she decided to take me up on it, and here we are today. So I can say that my endorsement of Elizabeth May is because I really believe that she can represent new ideas, new ways of doing things in Parliament. I think an individual MP can matter, and she will matter. But I also think that those people of Saanich Gulf Islands deserve what she can do in terms of representation out there. And I think that c'est vraiment un honneur pour moi. Je suis très heureuse d'appuyer Elizabeth May comme membre de Parlement pour le compte En fait, c'est de Saanich Gulf Islands. Félicitations, Elizabeth, et bonne chance. And I must say, I want to be absolutely clear that it's really the voters of Saanich Gulf Island who must make this decision. I have absolute respect, just like I would hope that people would respect my ability to give my vote here in my preference. So I absolutely respect them. What I'm trying to do is perhaps provide some information that would be helpful to people. First of all, because I've spent so many years in public life and many of those years at a very senior level, I've had an opportunity to really see parliamentarians and senators actually face to face and have an opportunity to sit in front of parliamentary committees and to see the value of an MP who is completely focused, well prepared and devoted to what they're doing. And I've seen the opposite, of course. So I have no doubt from what I've seen from Elizabeth May's background, her commitment, of course, to the Green Party, but to a heck of a lot of things that aren't necessarily part of the party. Her books, her commitment to climate change, to understanding what the choices are that Canadians are making. Her commitment is so strong, and I think that for me to just say that from my knowledge of her, from reading her books, that I just think that it's not just that constituency that will benefit. I think all of Canada will benefit, and I think having her here will be a gift, I suppose, I think, from that constituency to Canada, Elizabeth, not just for there. But you know, I know how much work I hope it will be for you as an MP there as well, and those people have to know. I was hearing stories that phone calls weren't being answered, and I think that what has to happen is a standard of service to the people there. And so I have absolute respect for whatever decision they make, but I just want them to know a little bit about the Elizabeth May that I know and support. So that's what I'm saying. It's and I just think that you know, I have an experience with Gary Lunn. He was, of course, demoted, so he didn't get a chance to do this again. I think natural resources has not played the important role that it needs to. It's natural resources come sustainable development nowadays, and I think that of course he was just the first of a number of ministers who haven't been able to do that job properly, but he really I think blew the chance to bring British Columbia and the island into a sustainable development way for natural resources. I think that it's not just a failing as a constituency MP, but broader too. What you are selecting when you select your MP is people that you trust, whether you're here in Ottawa or you're in Saanich Gulf Islands. You have to be able to trust this person to really be not looking at things in a terribly partisan sense. Everything doesn't go through that partisan lens, I think. They have to be looking at things more broadly, and so I have no doubt where Elizabeth will handle that, and I think my experience with Gary Lunn would show the opposite. So I think, again, I'd like you to really know that I'm very respectful of the choices, and I think Elizabeth has come out saying, people, vote. Get out there and vote. Make your decisions for democracy, and I think this is just part of it. I'm hoping people will take this as one piece of information, as a lot of other information that you have out there. I know that.
I wanted to mention, when you talk about the job and partisanship, it reminds me very much of when I was working on my last book on democracy. I was able to read the briefing book, the instruction manual for Conservative chairs of parliamentary committees. And the instructions in the book were, of course, the Conservative Party prepared this for Conservative chairs, and it was reported by Don Martin when he was at the National Post, which was at all times be considering the interests of the Conservative Party of Canada, referred to throughout in the book as CPC. I mean, we could take it as read that it wasn't the Communist Party of Canada, but consider at all times the interests of the CPC, and do not allow a witness to offer testimony that offends the interests of the CPC. And I think this is what Linda has experienced in Ottawa, to take this away for a moment from my role as a candidate in Saanich Gulf Islands to my role as federal leader of the Green Party, and identifying something that's dangerous that's happening to Canadian democracy, is the increasing partisan overlay that is trumping good public policy and good governance. It's the sense that we are in a state of nonstop election. When the elections are over, the spin doctors don't go away. And they keep telling MPs from every party, vote this way, say this, say that. And it's reached its zenith in people in the media actually laud it as a sign of Stephen Harper's leadership, that he's able to exert message discipline, right? Message discipline is not healthy in a democracy. People should be capable of thinking for themselves, working, as Linda said, it's a group activity. It requires a commitment to the public good, to the common good, and to public service. And this insane, and I do use the word insane intentionally, addiction to partisan advantage at every moment on every issue is dangerous. And it has affected the civil service of Canada, it's changed the way Ottawa works, and it affects the way Canadians feel about the House of Commons and democracy, and I think it's contributing to lower voter turnout. So as a federal party leader, this contamination of the House of Commons and Parliament as an institution with excessive partisanship has to stop. And it's one of the reasons that I want desperately to be the Member of Parliament for Saanich Gulf Islands, leader of the Green Party in the House, is to address this, to change it by reaching out to other MPs who feel the same way I do. This has got to stop because it actually degrades and devalues the democratic process.